Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I specifically want to talk about I want to talk about why many players and why dungeon performers and dungeon masters refuse to look at evidence, in my humble opinion, that Dungeons and Dragons is not a game. Um, and I found some real world evidence that I think points to what I've been saying and answers this question pretty well. So let's get into it. All right. So I don't believe that Dungeons and Dragons is a game. I think Gary Gygax built Dungeons and Dragons as an identity engine and accomplishment engine for humans, and specifically, and yeah, he built and he called it a game because he knew building an identity engine and an accomplishment engine would be so innovative and so you know so shocking to people that they wouldn't accept it. But if you put the broccoli in a if you put the pea in, if you wrapped it in chocolate, a game, it would work. Going further, I believe that if you look at Dungeons and Dragons, oh hey, you want to play Dungeons and Dragons with us? It takes 4 hours. You're signing up forever, and you won't win or lose. None of that even remotely looks like a game. And then finally, uh, like this last Sunday here on YouTube, somebody was like, Sunday D&D sermon. The community interacts with D&D in ways that don't match any game that's ever been made, right? Like the community does things that don't match, and all of this is because Dungeons and Dragons isn't a game, in my humble opinion, right? All right, so I've been presenting evidence for a long time, and I think even Wizards of the Coast is presenting evidence at this point. At the last D&D Direct, Joe Manganiello said, I'm having elevated conversations with people who have used Dungeons and Dragons to transform their lives and the society they live in. What? That doesn't sound like Monopoly, right? So so why do dungeon performers and dungeon masters still pretend it's a game? Well, I'm going to give you evidence why. All right, so Dan Murrell. So I'm a big, huge movie star. So here's the evidence. Here's evidence, I think, why, and seeing this in the real world, how this actually functions, and why people would be afraid of something that's huge and important and huge and important and dramatic and dynamic. That's the reason people are incredibly frightened of things that are dramatic and dynamic, because it means their lives change, right? So let's get all the way there on that premise, okay? All right, here we go. Okay. So, Dan Morale. So I'm a movie fan. I I've I've always watched movies, but now I'm at a new kind of a pinnacle of movie viewdom, right? I have a Regal Pass. I can go see any movie I want virtually for free. That's never happened. The economics of movies have completely changed. I can see whatever I want, whenever I want, however many times I want, right? That's never existed in my lifetime. And that's all thanks to Movie Pass, right? Also, movie commentary, movie critique has reached such a pinnacle on YouTube that I have four absolutely brilliant movie critiquers who help me enjoy movies before they arrive, help me enjoy a movie after they arrive, and help me enjoy even the movie as I'm watching it, right? Because I'm like critiqued up and I understand what I'm looking at, right? And those movie reviewers are Grace Randolph, Fish Jelly, Popcorn Beard, and the last guy we're going to talk about today, Dan Murrell. Now, Dan Murrell is a movie expert, and he looks at charts. He looks at movie charts. Okay, actually, he creates movie charts. He creates his own custom charts, and this is not a joke. I really believe I'm fairly certain he is one of the foremost experts. He is one of the foremost experts in the world on movie box office. He knows an incredible amount about movies. Okay. All right. About movie box office specifically. So this week, the movie The Beekeeper came into the mix, right? And so this movie drops. The movie The Beekeeper, right? And And Dan Murrell said, and so he's dealing with Beekeeper in the charts, right? And so he said, and then he decided, I'm going to make a chart where with movies that have B in the name, BEE. And so the movies are The Secret Life of Bees, Aquila and the Bee, Bumblebee, The Beekeeper, and the Bee Movie. 5 movies, right? And you're like, wow, okay. So he's done this special thing. He said, like, let's take a look from a box office perspective of a movie and just use a single word. Just use a single word in its and just use a single word in its title to group them, right? And then we're going to see how they did over time, right? Like, see how they did in comparison to each other. Now, what's astounding is this is pretty brilliant, right? This is an innovation. I had never seen a chart like this, right? And I was like, wow, that's, this is really deep, right? Like, here's an action movie. Here's a comedy movie. Here's a movie about education. Here's a movie that is a contemporary film. Here's a movie that has a different topic, right? And now we can look at these all together, and there might be something really important we can learn, right? So this is a major innovation in charts and in how we look at box office and how we process information, right? So listen to this, right? So this foremost expert in world box office, right? One of the foremost experts in the world on movie box office, a guy who's forgotten more about movie box office than you or I know ever knew, right? He takes this new chart and he says, hey, everybody, I did something stupid. That's how he opens it, right? Not, hey, everybody, take a look. I'm going to show you this new chart, and it's just like, what is a single word in the title, right? And when we look at this together, what can we learn, right? Like, I think we're all here, and we're learning about films, and we're learning about the commerce of film. And I've made this new thing for you, right? And I took the extra time, and my brain, because I think about movies in a different way, has this new idea. And now together we're going to process this new information, and let's see what we can take away. No, you know what he does? He's like, hey, I made this beautiful thing for you. Why don't I light it on fire immediately? Right? Why don't I tell you I'm an idiot and you shouldn't listen to me? I did something stupid. Why don't I denigrate myself and make sure that all the expertise I've built over months and years is thrown away immediately? Right? Why don't I make it so that you don't trust me? Why don't I make it so that there's no way any of us can walk away with anything beautiful, new, with wisdom, feeling, or intellect, right? Like, why don't I destroy the thing I have made so that there's no possibility that anything valuable comes from your experiencing it or from me making it? I made something stupid. Let me cut the legs out of this statue before anyone sees its beauty. Let me destroy it as I present it. Right? This is one of the foremost experts in the world on movie box office. Right? But you know where he's at? He's like, I'm just a guy on YouTube sharing my ideas. I'm nothing, and you're nothing. Right? I did something stupid, and there's no possibility that any of my viewers will have an epiphany and will open up a new era of movie analytics. Let me make sure that I tell you I'm stupid, right? And the reality is he's doing this to undercut even anybody having the possibility of processing it. And it is so heartbreakingly sad, right? It's false modesty, right? It's outrageous foolishness of saying, I made a thing, but and why would he do this, right? I think the reason why is people are frightened of innovation. They're frightened of failure, right? Because the world punishes failure so badly, right? So he's frightened of failure. And that means he's also very frightened of innovation, because innovation is usually a path from failure, right? And this is why I think Gary made sure to disguise Dungeons and Dragons, because he knew people just do not want dramatic and dynamic change, because it means their life is about to change. And I truly believe, right, if Dan Murrell had not said, I made something stupid, he could have like climbed the ladder a bit and been like, hey everybody, I'm a guy on YouTube who talks about movies. You better listen, because the reality is I have more passion and more wisdom and more genuine joy over this than almost anybody in the world. And I'm about to transform the way we think about movie analytics, right? But he was frightened of it. He literally couldn't believe in himself, and he couldn't believe in his audience. And he lit the thing on fire. Literally, he had made this beautiful painting, right? And he furled off the tarp over the painting, right? He furls off the tarp over the painting, and he lights it on fire from the back immediately, so that it's burning even as you see it for the first time, so that there's no chance the world sees its beauty, right? And this is why Gary did what he did, in my humble opinion. He knew the shape of the world. He knew that people fear the dramatic and the dynamic. They fear it so much, right? And they don't want to believe in themselves, and they don't want to believe in their audience. And here I am, and I'm telling you, it's hard. Like I just don't have many people who are like, yeah, I see what you're saying about Dungeons and Dragons, and it's so clear, and it's clear every day, right? So I think this was incredibly sad, and you'll find the link below for exactly where this B chart is. You should take a look at it, and you'll hear his words. Hey, I made something stupid, right? And it's simultaneously glorious, because this is brilliant analytics, and it's simultaneously terrifying, because we as humans hate ourselves so much, right? And refuse to realize that sometimes there are wings on our back, but we're like, oh, hack those off so that we don't go too high. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.